Hi, everyone. My name is Camden Bucey, and welcome back to the Squared Away Life podcast. It has been a few weeks since I have recorded an episode. I've been traveling quite a bit, and one of my trips was even overseas. I went to Italy to visit a friend up in Umbria near Perugia, and then down to Rome for an event for the Rome Scholars and Leaders Network meeting. And that eventually led me to today, where I'm going to be speaking about some things that I learned and some things I thought about coming out of that meeting with other scholars and leaders. Today, I want to be speaking about how I've been experimenting with artificial intelligence, particularly with Claude Cowork and Claude Code, and how I use those tools to build what I'm calling a mastery kit, or perhaps we might call it something like an active learning system. Now, the problem here is that I'm speaking for myself, but I imagine many of you are like this as well. We often consume books or videos, courses, but then we often forget most of it. We consume them or participate in those things, approaching them passively. We just read a book passively or watch a course passively, and we think we're gleaning information and integrating that with our knowledge base, but then often we find a few months later or a few years later, all of it's passed out of our minds, and we haven't really done anything with it. When we engage in material like that passively, we don't learn best. So I wanted to take cutting edge and scientifically proven pedagogical methods and see if I can use AI as a tutor to help me learn things that I think are worth learning. I want to engage in texts and courses and other resources as best as possible, not to replace my learning, but to enable me to learn better, to learn more effectively. So I want to master a hard text, not just skim it. And I want to see if I could use AI as a study partner, a tutor, a dialogue partner to build an entire learning system, not to do the work for me, not to learn for me, or not to tell me what to think, but to put me into a position where I'm engaging with the material as best and as actively as possible, and then using this tool or this system to draw out my own thoughts and force me to think about things that I wouldn't have even thought about if I was reading or watching or listening purely in a passive way. So here's what I built. I built, again, what I'm calling for the moment a mastery kit or an active learning system, something of the sort. It's a self-contained study system that lives within my note vault. If you've been following the channel, you know that I use Obsidian. You can use whatever you want, but for me, Obsidian is tremendous. It's free, it's multi-platform, and at the end of the day, what it is a collection of text notes that are formatted using a very basic formatting system known as Markdown. It's a formatting system that you can read with your own eyes. You don't need to interpret it. It's not in binary or anything. So I could print out my entire note system and still read it on paper, but yet it works wonderfully within this digital system on my laptop, on my phone, on my iPad. It's great. And then because it's just text files, I can use other systems as well to get things into my notes or to take things out of my notes and analyze them. So I wanted to create a self-contained study system that would work within Obsidian, ideally within a self-contained folder, and then everything would be built inside of there, and I could make that portable. I could zip it up and share it with somebody. I could remove it from my note system, put it somewhere else if I wanted. So for me specifically, I was wanting to learn more about Pope Leo XIV's new and first encyclical Magnifica Humanitas. And this is an interesting piece. It applies to my own personal scholarship in Roman Catholic thought. And I had several great discussions of this at the meeting I went to in Rome. And I wanted to learn more about this encyclical, and not just the encyclical itself, but also the entire thread of Catholic social teaching and the encyclicals that have come before it, the history and all the arguments that Leo is making within this. I wanted to explode this document and learn about it thoroughly, and then be able to record my thoughts, to process them, and then eventually possibly even record some podcasts on them, to interact with other scholars on various subjects, and then to write my own essays, papers on the subject. So to get there, I wanted to employ the latest and greatest and time-tested and scientifically proven pedagogical techniques. And this involves using things like spaced repetition, active recall, integrating your thoughts with other things you've learned. And so there are a lot of different technologies and methods that the AI has helped me to put into place. So here are some of the pieces. There's a map of the whole work. So I've taken Magnifica Humanitas, which is freely available on the web. This makes it very nice because I can just point the AI at the text and it can analyze the entire thing. The AI system helped me to develop atomic notes, or what I called stubs. There was like one idea per note that's working through all the major sections of the encyclical. It created a whole system of flashcards for me. It created a document with dated reading and a review schedule for working through the encyclical portion by portion, and then a short master document, something I would call a map of content. That is, in effect, basically looks like a table of contents, but the table of contents refers to all the atomic notes that were generated to begin with in an organized fashion. So I can go to one note for Magnifica Humanitas and then see a structured listing of all of my notes on the subject right there in that helpful way. Incidentally, I also used Claude Code I guess it was Claude Cowork in this case, to typeset the encyclical because I didn't like reading it on the website. So it created a beautifully typeset edition for me according to my own personal preferences and styles. So it made a nice PDF for me with section markings that I could use and to read and to mark up. And the cool thing here is that AI was used as a scaffolding, but it was meant as a help to help me learn. So it's not a replacement or a crutch, but really an enabler for me. So what's the principle behind this? Well, the point, again, is not to have AI summarize or write my notes. That robs me of learning. It might make my notes really thorough and someone else would like to read them, but it's not helping me. If I'm just using AI to curate what AI is doing and regurgitating and then putting that into my notes, I guess there's some value in that because I have a database of stuff, but it's not helping me in the sense of helping me to learn, helping me to understand. It's not actually learning. It's just collating, editing of sorts. So learning science, present day, pedagogy, after years and years of, implicit knowledge, but now with scientific testing, we've learned what helps people to learn well. And it is what I mentioned earlier, active recall, not passive, but active recall. Thinking on your own, thinking hard, trying to recall what you've learned. Spaced repetition. So that's reviewing, over time, like every day, looking at new things, or every few days, writing things in your own words, or the generation effect, and then connecting and then your knowledge with other bits of knowledge and then elaborating what you've learned. This is why we often will say that you learn best by teaching. It's because when you do that, you're engaging in all these fundamental activities that are helping you connect your synapses. It's rewiring your mind, and it's making you better, helping you to master this content. So I want to replicate that on my own. And AI is really great at building the scaffolding. It could create structure. It was creating all sorts of active reading prompts for me. So it was giving me kind of like what would look like discussion questions. Not exactly for discussion, but it was asking me questions, things it wanted to know, things it prompted me to consider. As I would read a section, I would seek then to answer the questions that my tutor was providing. It gave me a schedule. It gave me flashcards. It pointed me to other resources I should read, other encyclicals, other theological works that were lurking in the background of Leo XIV's encyclical. But the point of this is that I keep doing the cognitive work. I'm doing the retrieving, the writing, the judging, the arguing, and the AI is putting me in a position to do those things, much the same way that a tutor or a professor would be doing in a class on this subject. So I'm basically rolling my own class on Magnifica Humanitas and then engaging in the activities. So how this actually worked, let's get down to the nuts and bolts. Well, the AI would read the text. I told it to go read Magnifica Humanitas. It mapped the structure. I read the entire thing on my own independently first, but then I had the AI read the text, map its structure, and then I told it to go through and really to map out and pick the load-bearing ideas. What are the key issues involved in this? What is doing the most work for Leo in this? What are the arguments he's making? Then I had it draft several note stubs. So among those core ideas throughout the entire encyclical, it created a new text file, a new note within my Obsidian with pointed questions. He would, it would be questions like questions asking me to state the issue, but then also to state the reasons why this issue was being made or what I thought about it, and then connecting or pushing back on the subject matter. And I would sit down, having already read the encyclical, but now reading it again, answering the questions that are prompted to me by this AI tutor. I would sit down and read and answer the questions. For the sake of just adding some more tools to the bit, I would often use Willow Voice. Whisper Sync is another tool, but this allows me to talk right into my microphone, or you could talk into your, if you have a computer, your webcam mic or something, and you just dictate, and it would instantly transcribe my words into my note. So I would frequently just answer the questions by talking it out and then putting that into the notes section of this stub. Each stub would include, what subject matter is being discussed. It would have the question prompts and then a space for me to write. And I would often dictate that. I would type it out, but I dictate it. Maybe I might move some things around. But I would just go fill out all the note stubs that the tutor created. And so each day I would go in and read a unit. I'd close the book. I'd recall these notes and answer the questions in my own words. Ideally, each day I would go through the schedule and review the flashcards that it had created for me. And it even created a nice query in Obsidian, which would present me with various flashcard issues, whatever. So it talk about like important points or important historical moments and that sort of thing that the encyclical referred to. And I would just do that active review, that spaced repetition and active recall. And then I also had the AI tutor assemble a reader of primary sources for me so that I could engage original materials, not just summaries. For the things that were copyrighted and not in the public domain, it would just give me references and it would allow me to go find the book or the article, that sort of thing, and read that. But for stuff that's in the public domain, like Thomas Aquinas or other encyclicals that are freely and publicly available, it would just include excerpts and I could read that. But the coolest thing about this is it really was basically creating a dialogic mode for me, where I would not just read the text, but I would argue with the text. And this is what you ought to be doing when you're reading well and when you're reading scholarly resources for scholarly purposes. But it's so easy just to sit down and read passively. We have to fight against laziness and against the tendency just to take things in, and to engage with discipline and with argumentation and to read things actively. I found that the tutor was helpful in forcing me into a place where I had to wrestle with the text. So I really benefited from that. And I was telling my wife, I really felt that the second time through and the third time through. So the first time through the encyclical, I just read it. The second time through, I'm answering these questions. And in many of the sections, I felt like I was reading something completely different because I just had not engaged with the deeper structures, or I missed things, whereas the AI was able to identify some tradition or some other theological issues, historical theological issues that were lurking in the background, things of which I was unfamiliar. And so much like a great teacher is going to expose you to these things, this AI was able to do it for me in a helpful way. And the AI was also able, in many cases, to present different counter arguments, to present issues to me that were going to challenge me or that were challenging Leo the 14th. And then was forced to really think through these. Many people will talk about steel manning an argument. You don't want to straw man it. You want to steel man it. If you're arguing with something, you want to engage with the best possible version of it. And I found out by forcing myself to do that with these arguments, it was drawing out my own thoughts well and exposing to me where I was strong or where I was weak, and really helping me to question what I really thought. So here's some lessons learned, just the honest part. I found the AI is a tremendous help. It really is kind of an amazing tutor and a scaffolder, a builder. Now, of course, it's not going to know everything. It's perhaps going to miss certain aspects. And the more information you give it, the better. The more context you give it, the better. But it's never going to substitute for your own thought. It's going to be terrible at that. And the tendency will always be, perhaps, to let AI do things for you. And that is a horrible use of the technology. But I think it's a tremendous technology if we use it to put us into a position to do better and to work harder and to think more deeply about things. So all told, I am tremendously thankful for this technology in helping me to read better. And I'm very impressed and optimistic about using this system moving forward for other key works. I'm looking to do some studying in Henri de Lubac's work on nature and grace. There's a million other things I think I would like to read, and just take one key master work at a time and just clear my schedule, my reading schedule at least, and just devote time to one key work and to master it. And having an AI assistant, a research assistant, and a tutor help me do this is really useful. But you must resist the temptation to let it write the notes for you, even if those notes are just going to be there to store them away for the future. You have to resist that. You have to allow it to ask you questions. And then if you're stuck, or if you don't understand what's behind the question, go back to the AI and say, hey, walk me through this, ask this question, or break it down even more simply so that I know where you're coming from or what is in the background here. That's all helpful. That's all good. Have a dialogue about that, but don't allow it to start telling you what to think, and don't allow it to write your notes for you. That is pointless. It's only cheating yourself. But you also need to be mindful that slow is better, I think. You need to realize that quantity is not better than quality. You, of course, always need to be mindful of verifying sources. If the AI produces a quotation or a citation, you can't take it seriously because it might have created it. The models, certainly the ones I was using Claude 4.8, which is very good and generally really accurate. So the tendency of the AI to hallucinate and make things up is much lower, but it's still there, and you can't take it for granted. So you need to always check these things and verify them. But really, the dialogue is where the true value is, where the gold is. If you can have this dialogue, you can have a conversation with an entirely enthusiastic and well-sourced, capable conversation partner whenever you want, whether that's at 5 in the morning or 5 in the afternoon. It doesn't matter. Your dialogue partner is always ready to go. And it doesn't replace talking to other humans. It's not the same, but I found it to be much more effective than me reading on my own. And for that, I'm thankful. And I think it's really quite useful. But you need to watch for the outsourced judgment. Again, watch for the case in which you're outsourcing your thinking or your judgment. You can't do that. But if you put strict guidelines on the AI tutor, and if you use the skill that as I developed it, I think you'll find it to be really quite helpful. So own the output and enjoy the process. So if you're a student out there, or if you're someone who would like to learn something deeply, you want to dive into a book or a course or even just a general topic. So these could be teachers, students, pastors, or just lifelong learners. then I want to share this with you. I'm going to share and allow you to download a generalized version of the skill that I developed that you could drop into your own AI setup. This file is, at the end of the day, just a text file, and it's going to describe to your AI system what I did. So if you're using Claude Cowork or Claude Code, or if you're using ChatGPT, Codex, or Google Gemini, whatever it is, you can just copy and paste the text or upload the file and tell it what you want to do. Say, hey, I would like to learn about X book, or I would like to learn about X topic, and here is a skill of a system I would like you to help me build. So just here's the file. I'll include a link in the description. You could try it out on a book or some other course or some other topic you've been looking to master. But in summary, use the AI to make yourself think harder and to think better, not to think less. All right. And let me know what you think, and share with me what lessons you've learned. And perhaps we can improve this skill together. I'd love to hear it. You can send me a note at mail@squaredawaylife.com or contact me through the website. Again, my name is Camden Bucey. You've been watching Squared Away Life. Thank you so much. Let's go get squared away.